Shop your insurance. Shop it with Tony Pope. His name all over the billboards and up there on the screen at Founders Park this weekend. He's a great Gamecock. Works very hard for all of you. TonyPope.com. Real quick here, some news. Tonight, the Gamecocks will enter the contest against North Carolina in the top 25. D1 softball's rankings are out for this week, and Ashley Chastain has got them in there. In her inaugural season, after 10 games, they are 10-0, looking to improve to 11-0 and 3-0 versus the ACC, we might add. They are number 24 in this week's D1 softball top 25 poll. Much like D1 baseball, I put more emphasis on this one than others. But just to prove how difficult this league is, once again, in just another sport, they are the 12th highest ranked team out of the SEC. 12th.
Stop me if you've heard this one before, right?
Not 6, Alex. Not 8, Phil. Not 10. Nope, not 11. We're not going to stop there.
Jeez.
12th highest ranked team out of the SEC. But we'll talk to Ashley on Thursday. She'll be here with us for as long as she wants to be. I think about 11 o'clock or so on Thursday morning. And regardless, they certainly are. We certainly are playing pretty well. Have you seen them play yet, Alex?
I haven't, but I'm looking forward to catching some of their games. See if I can catch some of their games tonight. Should be a pretty fun matchup tonight.
Yeah, moved up a day. It's not like baseball where you have to shift your entire. You're like, oh gosh, man, we're moving up a day. What arms are ready? What arms aren't ready? In softball, they don't have to do all that. They'll throw their game 1 Friday night gal tonight against North Carolina, and good news, she'll be back on Friday. So
and then maybe again on Sunday.
Yeah, you never know. I know softball pretty decently. Obviously I knew Ashley from school and hung around all them and have watched plenty of my time, but it's changed a little bit. There was a time where you'd see the same one over and over and over throughout a weekend. She's actually taking a little bit of a different approach with the group she's got. They're all going to throw a bunch of innings, it seems like. So we'll see. All right, Alex, that's the good news. The bad news is the men have to play tonight. You almost I feel like I'm not even really doing my job because I've run out of things to say. I guess when you look at what's left on the schedule, this seems to be the most winnable game, even though it's on the road. Does it appear that way to you? What do you know about LSU? Besides they've struggled too.
Yeah, they are kind of right down there in the standings with South Carolina. Obviously, they're coming off a win on Saturday. They went to Oklahoma and found a way to escape with a 3-point win. They're a team that's, I think South Carolina kind of matches up kind of well with LSU, but, it's going to be one where South Carolina hasn't played well on the road at all, really, especially in SEC play. And they got to go on the road to a team that's coming off a win that's trying to build some momentum. So, it's going to be a test. And LSU's got some talented guys on the team. Cam Carter is averaging just over 17 points per game. Jordan Sears is really good at guard, too. So, it's going to be another challenge for South Carolina. And it's a game that, you see some opportunities for them in, and then see if they can find a way to build some momentum into a back half of the schedule that you're going to have some of those tough games. You got Tennessee, in there. You got to go to Missouri, but there's some opportunities that South Carolina can find a way to build some momentum.
Stepping away from the ball game for a little bit, the 3 games in league play that are tonight, 7 o'clock on the Deuce. You remember when they used to call ESPN the Deuce? Remember that, Alex?
Yeah.
The Deuce. Glad they don't do that anymore. From the Stephen C. O'Connell Center in Gainesville, Exact Tech Arena. Oklahoma is at the 2nd-ranked Florida Gators. Now, there's a lot on the line here, and Florida should be fine. They should be fine. They're 14.5-point favorites. They should be fine. But let me point out a couple of things. Number one, Florida is based on the latest bracketology that just came out today. Well, there it is. They're the number 1 seed in Raleigh, which is part of the western half of the bracket when you go to San Francisco. Who wants to go to San Francisco right now? Anyway, ask for another day. So Florida is a projected 1 seed along with Duke, Alabama, and Auburn. So the Gators keep winning. Obviously, there's a really good chance. I mean, the SEC is going to get 2 of the top 4. The question is, are they going to get 3, or hell, could they get 4?
Yeah.
But here's really the magnificent part about this ball game that's going to be tipping at 7:00. There are 13 teams right now. 13 projected in. Yesterday there were 14. There are 13 teams that are projected in. Oklahoma is one of the last 4 in. All right. So are the Arkansas Razorbacks. Let me remind everybody that Oklahoma, while they are 16-9 on the season, they are 3-9 in the SEC. And they're projected in the tournament. And so if they lose tonight against a number 1 seed, which again seems likely, they'll be 3-10. But how much are they really going to get banged for losing in Gainesville? So you'll be talking about a 16-10, 3-10 Oklahoma Sooners team who could, after tonight, be hanging on as one of the last 4 in or in the first 4 out group. If that doesn't further explain the depth of this league and the difficulty of this league, I don't think there could be anything else that possibly could.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you look at the teams that are on the bubble right now from the SEC. You got Georgia, who I think is projected out right now, but one of those last 4 or last teams out. You got them who, haven't been great in SEC play. They have a couple good wins. They got Kentucky in there, but it just shows the depth of this league and what people in the committee and on the outside think of it. I mean, it's every night it's a war. I mean, you've seen teams like Auburn and Mississippi State's two of the best teams in Florida, 3 of the best teams in the SEC come to Colonial Life Arena and have to escape and have to work to get a win against South Carolina. I mean, South Carolina's been close right there, but it's an unreal league this year. I mean, it's one of the best. It's the best in the nation, obviously, and then it's one of the best I think ever. Really, I mean, it's just top to bottom. It's stacked.
Yeah, I'm a little. I'm interested in the different, because you're right. Georgia is on that first line out, and when I looked at them this morning, but I wanted to make sure that I was right about this. When you actually compare the schedules of the Hogs and the Dogs, well, that's a place you wouldn't want to be. You're talking about Arkansas. You're talking about Arkansas and Oklahoma being in and Georgia being out. Georgia has 1 more win in SEC play. I mean, they're all very similar, to be honest with you. Like all of their schedules. Now, Oklahoma in the non-con did not lose a game. That included wins over 24th ranked Michigan, 24th ranked Arizona. They beat Louisville, who is one of just 3 ACC teams who's projected in right now. So all 3 of these teams could play their way out. All 3 could play their way in. My guess is 1 or 2 of the 3 will play their way in or something like that. But it further goes to explain, though, just how close South Carolina, like when you look at that 10-15 mark and 0-12 in the league, it further goes to explain exactly what we've been saying around here for a while, Phil, and it's heartbreaking to say. But if the Gamecocks somehow right now were 14-11 and 4-8 in SEC play, all those games that they just kind of gave up or gave away there at the end, I'm talking about 14-11. 4-8 in league play with that win over Clemson, they'd be on the bubble right now.
Yeah, and not only would they be on the bubble, but those wins would stand out. I mean, if let's say they close the game against Florida, let's say they close the game against Auburn, that's 2 of the top teams in the country. I mean, 2 probably number 1 seeds. Like those are high quality wins that would eventually probably cancel out the North Florida loss to start the season. So, I mean, it kind of shows how small the margin of error is this year in the SEC, and it's kind of gotten to South Carolina. But one thing that this league's going to have is the SEC tournament is going to be really fun. I mean, it's going to be something. Like you're going to have teams, one either battling to get in the tournament, like probably Georgia, Vanderbilt, Oklahoma. Those teams are going to be battling to get in. But then you're going to have teams that are battling just to improve their seeds. So I mean, the SEC tournament is going to be something this year.
It's absolutely going to be something. You can make the argument that a lot of that has kind of started right now.
Yeah.
You got Mississippi State tonight hosting Texas A&M. State is a projected 7 seed in Alabama's bracket, which would be the Midwest bracket. Again, all this will change, but just so everybody knows kind of where they stand here, it's time to pay attention to all this stuff, right? And they've got A&M coming to town, who's ranked number 7 in the country. They're a projected 2 seed, and if somebody slips in front of them, let's say it is the Gators or Alabama or Duke or something like that, they're standing there with Tennessee going, pick me. So this is a huge ball game tonight for Texas A&M. You can make the argument that the SEC tournament and the results of how a lot of that plays out and ends up placing teams in the postseason is actually already begun.
Yeah, I mean, every game here from here on out, the regular season into the conference tournament is going to mean something, especially because of the league. Because most of the time, most games here from here on out are going to be battling between NCAA tournament teams. So there's going to be seeding on the line. There's going to be SEC tournament seeding on the line. There's going to be top 4 seeds in the tournament on the line. So it's a whole lot of fun to watch SEC basketball here down the stretch.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun tonight. Hopefully, it's fun for South Carolina. And I just pray that my friend Mike Morgan has a good game to call, and really pray that Carolina comes out on top from the Pete Maravich Assembly Center. First of all, Mad Dog, we have to acknowledge the fact that the pride of Hampton County here didn't get the task of having to drive the rental car back from Baton Rouge this weekend like he did this past weekend from Gainesville.
That's right. Are you going to get to fly?
Because I talked to Derek Friday morning on the way to Columbia about the schedule. I was trying to figure out how to fit him into our baseball coverage. And I said, so what will you – I thought you were leaving today. Oh, heck no, man. It's a 5.5 hour drive. I'm going to leave tomorrow morning. Me and Alex are picking it up, and I'm going to fly back with the team, and Alex gets to drive the rental car back. I thought, well, that sucks.
Road Alex. Trip. I know.
We don't have an intern for that. How was the drive, Alex? I can tell you right now, driving back to Columbia from Gainesville, that's like that's a 5-star deal compared to having to drive back here from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. No,
yeah, that's like twice the time, more than likely.
Yeah. It wasn't a bad trip coming back. Right as soon as I crossed the Florida-Georgia line, it started just pouring. I think it rained on me the whole way there, and it was windy. It was going through that whole storm system that was coming through South Carolina, but it wasn't a bad trip there and back.
The only person I know that said that they enjoyed their trip from Baton Rouge to Columbia is Paul Maneri's wife. She, I guess, made a couple of day trip out of it and kind of enjoyed herself along the way. I'm like, I'm good. I'm good with that. I'm good. No thanks. LSU comes in tonight, Alex, off of a win. That was a pretty wild little victory they had there against Oklahoma. That again is, that's a bad loss for the Sooners, and they're still somehow today projected in the tournament at 3-9, as we just pointed out a moment ago. But prior to that, loss. They lost like 7 in a row. What are we looking for here? What do you know? I mean, what will give the Gamecocks a challenge?
Yeah, it's going to be the guard play for LSU. I mean, I mentioned it kind of off the top. Cam Carter and Jordan Sears have been really good this year. I mean, Jordan Sears is a guy that, probably a lot of South Carolina fans remember just from the transfer portal this past off season. But Cam Carter has been really good, 17.3 points per game. He's shooting 41% from 3 this year. And then he and Sears are 87 and 86% from the free throw line as well. So those two guards, they're going to be a challenge. And I mean, I think, down low, I'm interested to watch, what Colin Murray Bulls and Nick Preeland can get going down there. I mean, Jalen Reed and Damian Collins, or excuse me, not Jalen Reed was really coming on for LSU, and he's out for the year. But, you watching them against Corey Chest and Damian Collins is going to be fun to watch. But, I think the thing with Cam Carter is he's starting to play his best ball right now. I think he had 29 points against Oklahoma. Yeah, he had 29 points, 10 of 17 from the field, and 5 of 10 from 3. I mean, that guy's really starting to play well. So I think that's going to be South Carolina's biggest challenge, to see if they can slow him down. And if they can, we'll see what can happen.
That doesn't sound good. Those guys end up going off. So yesterday, the news, I guess it's news, kind of broke that LSU is committed to Matt McMahon. Matt McMahon.
Yeah.
Matt McMahon, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I know it's not Vince, but they're committed to Matt McMahon, and who's a good coach. Who's a guy whose name came up with this job, but it came up with the caveat of we are focused on increasing our commitment to name, image, and likeness for the men's basketball program here at LSU. Do you draw some similarities there to what's going on in Columbia?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, seeing what's all gone down for South Carolina this season, I think it's obvious there needs to be some improvement there. I mean, because we talk about, what we're talking about earlier with this league, like it's really good this year, but you don't see it slowing down at all. Like these teams are going to reload and they're going to be really good again. So, I think you're going to see that, just to kind of plug in the VIP room last night. John Whittle had some notes on that, so go check that out on thebigspur.com. But I think you're going to see a little South kind of find ways to improve in that, because I think just with what you've seen this season compared to for South Carolina compared to what you've seen around the SEC, I think you got to see some improvement there.
Look, Alex, I know that during this losing streak, Carolina has played probably, just some awesome teams. And you look back over this right now, the last 4 games that they played. Talk about Texas A&M, where they had a chance, couldn't quite get it done. The Aggies shot 45% from the field for the game, 48% long range. Kentucky, 35% from beyond the arc, but 48.4% overall in the ball game, right? Ole Miss shot 46% for the game. And as we recall, 62% from long range. And then the Gators shot 60% from the field in the game and 50% from long range. That's a disturbing trend for me, because Lamont, maybe a little bit different than Frank in some areas, but certainly really pushes and presses on defense. Isn't always as concerned necessarily about the percentage of makes if you're limiting possessions and creating turnovers and things like that can kind of mitigate and offset. But when you're not doing that, and somebody each game is knocking down over half of the 3-pointers or damn near 50-60% overall from the floor or whatever it is, that's just a really bad scenario, knowing that this team, it's not like Carolina can just shoot the lights out. They just fire it up and say, well, let's just hang in here and see what happens late. They don't have that ability. So what have you learned about the defensively and what in the world they've been going through the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, it's really been kind of something here in those games you mentioned. Some of them have been just guys are making contested shots or contested 3-pointers. You think back to the A&M game, and Wade Taylor, he and Jamari Thomas just kept going back and forth on threes, and a lot of them were like logo threes for Wade Taylor, and he was just knocking them down. Then sometimes these teams are just getting open shots that shouldn't be happening in South Carolina's defense. You think about in that Florida game, South Carolina did an okay job in the first half defending the 3-point line. Both teams really kind of started off pretty well offensively, but South Carolina had their own struggles offensively to end the half, but only were down by 4 points at halftime. You get into the second half, and Florida just turns it up on the fast break, and they are finding open looks pretty consistently. And I kind of asked Lamont about that after the game, and some of it was just miscommunication, and some of it was their offense. Was some of the shots they were taking on offense was turning into fast break opportunities and open threes for Florida. And a team like Florida, when you give them open threes, they're going to knock them down and extend their lead and roll past you like they did to South Carolina in the second half. So, that's something with this LSU game. Like, they're going to have to be able to slow that down. LSU, I think, LSU is okay. They're at 31% right now from shooting threes, so maybe there's opportunities there to, find ways to improve on the 3-point line. But if they want to find some success here down the stretch, they've got to improve on their perimeter defense.
I need to add to Georgia shot over 50% in the ball game as well, so that's 5 straight. Somebody's been over 50 somewhere. Basically, that's. Whew. Elsewhere in college hoops tonight, a couple of upsets that are potential upsets to keep your eyes on if you are a betting man. Texas Tech is at TCU tonight. Might want to be careful in Fort Worth. Kansas is on the road at BYU tonight. And technically, by the rankings, that would be an upset. By the point spread, it wouldn't be. BYU is a 3.5-point favorite in that ball game. Maybe the best game of the night outside of what could transpire in Starkville could be in East Lansing, Purdue, and Michigan State. If you want to watch that, you gotta watch it on Peacock, another one of those streaming services. Mad Dog.
Yeah, no,
They're
they're the last one for me, and I'm not doing it.
Yeah, that's right. All right, Alex. Any parting shots before we get you out of here?
No, just stick to the Big Spur. Matt Anderson and I are going to be back on after everybody gets done listening to the morning show today. Matt Anderson and I are going to be back on the late night show tonight previewing LSU. We'll go from 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock, kind of run into that LSU game. We'll preview LSU and all that, and then kind of look back to talk some baseball and talk some recent basketball. But we'll have it all covered on the Big Spur.
Well, perfect timing. So you hear that, Gamecock fans? 8 o'clock, Alex and Matt are the king of late night and the pride of Hampton County. And then at 8:30, you got to do some double dipping. You got to have these guys on, and then you got to have my man Derek and Casey on at 8:30 in the pregame show as well, leading into that 9 o'clock tip. Well, that's good. That's great. That gave me something to do at 8 o'clock tonight. Not that I didn't know you were going to be there already, but I'm going to act like I didn't. Thanks, man.